Hey, friends. Okay, so if you're joining me live or joining on the replay, I want to say welcome. Welcome to the Sunday Stitch Out. We come here every Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time. And um, tonight, well, each Sunday we come and we do a live embroidery project. And if you were with me, if you tuned in last week, you know that we had a bit of a problem with birds nesting. And I knew it was going to take a while to untangle that whole mess. So we had to leave early. We had to stop early. But since then, I have troubleshot. Yeah, I think that's it. A troubleshot why I was having that bird's nest because I kept getting it on my black thread and I wasn't sure if because I tried to follow the path and it seemed like it was, going through all of the places. Because sometimes it is so easy to skip a piece of your path and you don't even realize it because you think you've already, you know, checked everything. And it is, I can't believe how easy it is to look back on it and realize you missed a part of the path. But anywho, so um, I said, well, another thing I have not done yet is I have not changed out my needle. And since, it's the black thread, of course, that gets used a lot. And so maybe it's time to just change out the needle because what was happening was I kept getting the bird's nest. I was trying to do 3D puff. And every time I would try to do the 3D puff, it would just stitch in that same place and wouldn't advance. And then I would end up with the bird's nest. So the other day, I changed my very first needle. And boy, I tell you, it is not for the faint of heart. I got so frustrated trying to change that needle. It was funny. But I finally, I did get a chance because the little screw that you use to that holds the needle, if you are not careful, you can screw it all the way out, and you want to avoid that. I'll just tell you that much. When you're changing the needle, try to only loosen it just enough to let the needle slide out. Don't try to pull it all the way out because it is a beast trying to get that thing back aligned and back on. And the problem is the pieces are so small that if you accidentally drop one, I mean, you're going to spend the next 10 minutes on the floor trying to find where it is. But luckily, I actually didn't end up finding it with this. But I picked this up. Where did I pick this up? I was in Ollie's discount outlet. If you have an Ollie's, you might want to check yours. But if you have a Harbor Freight, they probably have one too. But this is a magnetic pickup tool, a telescoping magnetic pickup tool. And so the end, you can like if you ever because these pieces, these screws and things, when you have to do your maintenance on your machine, these screws are really small sometimes and they could easily slip out of your hand, fall on the floor and whatnot. This is a very useful tool to have around. You just kind of like wand it around, wave it around, and it will pick up whatever is magnetic around it, and that'll be an easy way to find those little screws and bits and bobs that you know come off when you're doing your maintenance. So, anywho, after I got the, so I fixed the bird's nest, I changed the needle, and then I tried another stitch out, and it came out perfectly. This is actually what I tested after I did the kind of fix it, the troubleshooting, and it came out really nicely. So I'm going to do another one tonight. But what I didn't realize was because I kind of separate my files by the type, and this was an applique, and I didn't have it in my applique folder, so I didn't realize until after the fact that it was an applique. So now so tonight I'm going to stitch it out again, but I'm going to kind of create some applique features, and I'm going to use HT, HTV vinyl. And I thought that would be fun to have the vinyl in the background here of the main section, and then on the flame and on the lid. You see that? So that's what we'll be working on tonight. We're going to keep it low key and simple, to make sure that we can get through a whole patch tonight, because I really want to get through a whole patch. I don't want to have to stop, due to technical malfunctions. So that's what we'll be doing tonight. If you're interested, stick around. If you're working on something in your own um, creative studio, let me know. Drop it in the comments, and let's get going. So I already have the design. I already have the design up on the machine. I'm using Chroma Inspire, and I'm actually, if you have suggestions, because I'm coming up on the end of my 1 year membership of Chroma, and it's time to renew. I have to renew on the 18th, and I haven't decided yet if I want to renew with Chroma or if I want to go to something else. I was kind of looking at different um, embroidery advertising software, and I really can't decide what's going to be best for me. Like, um, Chroma is a pretty kind of, I would say it's a heavy learning curve. And plus, the way they tier it, there's a lot of restrictions, a lot of basic functions that you would expect to be in a basic tier, but it's not. They hide it behind their more advanced tiers, and that kind of annoys me a little bit. I think you should be able to do the basic functions with a basic tier. But anyway, what I want to focus on primarily is applique and patches. And so I was looking at Embrilliance, and then I was also looking at the Dime has a software, OEDS, I think it is. They have a software that's specifically for patches too. So I'm trying to decide, do I just continue because I've already started learning on Chroma? Do I continue with Chroma, or do I switch over now while I'm still early in my digitizing learning? So that I don't have to. But the nice thing about Chroma is that it will send the files wirelessly to my machine, which was one of the reasons that I got the Creator, because I like the fact that I didn't have to transfer to a USB and take the USB over to the machine and download, blah, 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 blah. I could just send it from the computer. So if I get another software, I'll lose that feature, which to me was one of the benefits of this machine. So I don't know. If you have a digitizing software and you really like it, let me know, because I'm open to suggestions. Like I said, I'm not sure what I'm going to go with yet, where I'll end up. So I would appreciate letting knowing about other people's experiences. So anywho, like I said, the design is already over on the machine because I uh, did a test yesterday. So I'm going to be using um, just a regular piece of fabric. This is kind of like my test fabric. I found this at a sewing machine shop that was going out of business, and I don't think it's necessarily a stabilizer. It could be a cutaway. I'm not sure, but it's sturdy enough to just use for my test pieces. And then I have a stick-on stabilizer that I'm going to be using just in case. And this, I actually picked up this roll again at a fabric store that was going out of business. So I think what we can do is we can pick our applique pieces. Since we stitched it out already. Ooh, these things are tight. Since we stitched it out already, it'll be easy for me to gauge the size of the applique pieces that I need. So I think that's what I'm going to do first. So we have our orange section, our Be the Light dumpster section and then the trash can lid. So I definitely have black glitter that I can use. I'm not sure what color I have for the flame. And I have some green, but let me see if that's H. Why can't I say HTV? But anywho, let's take a look. So I have the black glitter, and I have this green, but oh, it's a foil iron on. I just pick up stuff when it's on clearance, and then I'm like, if it looks useful and it's a good deal, I just get it. But I need something for behind the dump. Oh, this will be behind the dumpster. Yeah, this will be on the lid, and so I need something within the flame. Now I like this one, but that would go well for a flame, right? Or should I do gold? I think because the Be the Light is already yellow, I think I'm gonna go with this for the flame. What y'all think? Right? And if we don't like it, we can always change our mind and do something else. So let's crack these babies open. I have not done HT. I cannot say that. HTV. I'll keep wanting to say HGTV because I used to watch that show all the time. That's what the problem is. My mouth wants to say HGTV, but lost my train of thought. Just that quick. But oh, that's what I was saying. I have not experimented with the iron-on HGTV yet for my applique projects. So this will actually be fun. And this didn't have a label on it, so I am assuming it's HTV as well. But we'll see. I should probably, I think what I'll do is I'll keep these labels inside the roll so I'll remember what it is. Because like this one, who knows? What I'll do is I'll just keep it in the center. That way I don't have to remember. This is pretty. So the black, we only need a little bit. So I'm actually just going to cut off that corner there. It's literally just a little touch, a little dot. All right, so we have our pieces pre-cut. I'll get some rubber bands for that later. Now we'll hoop. And I just realized I have so many stabilizers, but I don't have a cutaway. And I'm like, how did I miss that? Just a regular old basic cutaway. I have different like specialty things, but not just a basic regular schmegular cutaway, which I thought was interesting. So that's why I'm using this stick-on one, because it's available. Well, that went on crooked. I didn't want. That side was a little dirty, so we'll cover it up. And they'll probably get covered up with the design anyway. At some point, I'm gonna have to invest in the magnetic hoops because this thing hurts your fingers. Okay, so it's taut enough. You always want to hear that drum beat. Hi, it looks like we have a few new people in here. Say hello. Hi. Thanks for stopping in. We're going to be doing Be the Light dumpster fire patch, but we're going to use HTV. I'm going to just call it HGTV for the rest of the evening because that's what my brain wants to call it. It wants to call it HGTV. But we're going to do it as an applique patch. So that's what we're working on tonight. So let's go over to the machine and start our stitch. So because I worked on this yesterday for the regular stitch, it's already in here. But I do have to go back because it was on auto. And so now I need to go to automatic manual so that it'll stop after every color. I have the colors that I want already set. So that's all I need to do with that. So now it should stop at every color so that I can apply the applique. And I'm just going to give, even though I didn't stitch very long yesterday, I'm just going to give it a quick oil anyway. Because best practice. And check how much, I got plenty of bobbin left. So there's no worry about that. Oh, and here's a good thing to point out. Sometimes when I would, you heard that click, right? And so you think that your hoop is securely in the machine. But look right here. Right here. You see that gap? It's not all the way on. It's not all the way on this one. I'm not sure why this keeps doing this, but I have to make sure that that gap closes. Otherwise, it'll fluctuate like this. And I didn't know why it was doing that, but I realized later that it wasn't all the way in the hook, in the little, and I fixed it yesterday. I'm not sure what's going on, but you definitely, you want it to be all the way in that hole. And I know it's the right size because it'll fit right over this one. So something is not catching right. What I did yesterday was I unscrewed it. Like, do I have to move this up a little bit? See, now it goes right on. But I did that yesterday, so go figure. So now it's securely on. I'm going to go ahead and go into embroidery mode. Do my trace. And you don't have to do this, but I trace the design as well to know the exact area that it's going to be stitching. If you trace the area, that should be sufficient, but that's just something I do anyway. So now I'm going to stitch. And since I went to automatic manual mode, it should have stopped after this one so that I can place that first piece of HGTV. See? So now let me get the flame. And make sure that I peel off the backing. Oh, sorry about that. I'm just pressing it down a little bit. I don't think, because it's got a sticky backing, so I don't think it's going to move. We'll see. Proceed to the next. Oh, so I probably should have trimmed it before it went to this one, because you'll see that it overlapped. Can you see where it overlaps that section a little bit? So I probably should have clipped that, but we're going to keep going. So it laid down the placement stitch for the black lid part of the so I'm going to just lay this down. And keep going there. So I'm just going to trim this just a little bit based off of where the green is. Now we'll do the, probably gonna do the placement stitch for the dumpster. Now this foil is different because it has the carrier sheet on the front instead, and the other ones were on the back. So I'm gonna try not to stretch it too much. Oh, that didn't work. This one doesn't have a sticky backing. So this is gonna be interesting. Yeah, this doesn't have a sticky backing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some of my little adhesive, just a little dot, because you see how it wants to curl. It doesn't want to stay flat. So I have to give it a little help. So I'm gonna use a temporary fabric adhesive just to hold it while it's doing the tack down stitch. And hopefully that'll be enough. Because this is really curly. It doesn't want to stay flat. It still doesn't want to stay down. So I'm going to plan B. I'm going to put a little bit of bandage tape. Up. I guess I could pull it out. I've seen people pull it out, but the last time I pulled it out, it lost registration. And I don't think it's supposed to do that, but it did. So that's why I'm kind of trying to work with it. But I'm going to have to pull it out anyway, I guess, because when I do the stitch, you know, the satin stitch, I'm gonna have to trim it before I do the satin stitch anyway, so I'm gonna have to pull it out. But anyway, onward we go. And for some reason this side is not sticking. You better get down there. All right. Uh-oh, it moved. All right, so I'm gonna take it off now so that I can cut this excess. I don't know what's going on with this one. Why this one is so hard. And I left my applique scissors. So my green moved a little bit. You see that? That's a bummer. So next time I'm working with foil, I'll know I have to have a better solution for it to tack down. Because it's foil, so you don't want to really do a whole lot of heating, right? I'm just doing a quick trim to get the major stuff off. And then I'll go in, clean it up. So maybe it's gonna have a little bit of gap because of that puckering, the bubbling right there. But this is just for me, just for our testing purposes. So that's why it's always good to have your materials you don't care too much about, because you'd rather mess up on throwaway material than like someone's actual project piece. Like if a customer gave you their treasured dad's shirt, you don't want that to be the first thing you stitch on, because anything could go on. You could have a tension issue, you could have a bird's nest, and so you just want to be able to practice, have a practice piece, have a throwaway piece that so you can do it without fear. You know what I'm saying? Feel free to drop any comments or questions in the chat. I've got you guys up. I've got the chat up on my big computer, so I can, while I'm here at the table, I can see your comments and interact with you guys. When I'm over at the machine, it's a little bit harder to see if you say anything. So feel free to say hello. Let me know if you're working on anything tonight. I might have to step away for a second. I've got Bentley's chicken on the stove, and this should be almost finished cooking. It doesn't need to be done because he's a dog and dogs eat raw meat anyway. But I don't know, that's a human thing, but I can't feed him totally raw meat. It just messes with my psyche. So I have to cook it a little bit. That's me projecting my human stuff on my human hang-ups on him. He don't care. Meat is meat to him. I wonder what I could do to get that to lay down while it. I don't think there's anything I really can do. I think it's just that one we have to chalk it up as a loss. All right. So we've got everything cut out. We've got everything cut out. Got a little bit of pucker there where it moved. But I think we can still have a nice patch. We'll see. All right, let's go back over and finish out the stitch. Fingers crossed that the registration stays perfectly aligned. Y'all, I don't know what is up with this one. Why do I keep having to fight with this? I don't know what the deal is with that. So weird that I keep having to do that. Hopefully the registration stays the same, but we'll see. If you're joining, just join and say hi. Let me know if you're working on anything. We're just finishing up our applique patch. We're in the final part where it's applying the satin stitch. I was going live on TikTok and YouTube, but I had to leave TikTok alone because it was too unwieldy trying to manage both phones so that both views could see properly at the same time. So I think I'm just stick with YouTube because that's what I committed to. Every Sunday at 6 p.m. we'll be here doing a live stitch out. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and join me on our embroidery journey. Each Sunday we'll be doing a live stitch out, and the goal is to build upon the skill set with each progressive Sunday. And learn something new each week. You tell me, would you have done for the flames, would you have done red? I did orange, but I was having trouble deciding between my red, my orange, and yellow. Well, actually, I wanted yellow for the words, be the light. But I kept going back and forth. Do I want red flames or orange flames? This flame right here kind of reminds you of that Christmas character, Mr. Heat Miser. Remember him? That's what his hair looked like. Now for the final satin stitch. Actually, no, because we got to do the letters. And if you're wondering where I got this design from, I actually got it from Creative Fabrica. If you're not familiar, Creative Fabrica is a website where you can subscribe to and download all kinds of creative assets. Copyright free, royalty free. You're free to use them commercially if you want, or just for your personal use, either way. And they have a really nice library of embroidery designs. So this one I found on Creative Fabrica. So it actually might work out since it's moving from right to left. That little pucker that's in there might just get flattened out naturally. That might work in our favor. So we're almost finished with that. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my iron so that we can heat it, press on the HDTV. HDTV, there I go again. HTV. So we can secure it. Secure it. Because I think I'm going to turn that into a patch. So it would be good to iron it on just so that it doesn't lift up. Do a little bit of cleanup here while we wait. Almost done. I'm going to grab it because I think it's going to ding in a few seconds. Yep, we love to hear that little ding. Let us know that we finished. And here it is. Can you guys see that good? Let me put it in the light. Look at that. So I'm going to pop her out of the hoop. And give her a little press. I don't have my Teflon sheet handy, so I'm just going to use a piece of fabric. Because it's going to be a real quick touch anyway. So I'll just use this. Now this is, this is my tester. So it did still have that little gap there. I'm just going to fill that in with a fabric marker. Now, of course, if this were something I wanted to sell or give to somebody, I would just do another one. But since it's just for me, I'm just going to fill that in. Ooh, it's not the right green. But it's enough to It's enough to where it's not so obvious because you don't have the white. So now I'm going to cut close, but make sure not to cut into my stitches. Now, like I said, this is just my kind of throwaway fabric. If I wanted it to be a stiff patch, I would use a stiff felt under this. That way it would give it a little more strength. But just for this purpose, this will work fine. And I'm cutting as close as possible without nicking any stitches. But if I did, I just take a lighter and kind of hit the edges, and that would seal it for us anyway. My dog Bentley has his own little perch, his own little seat, so that he could see out of the window. And he's always finding somebody to fuss at. Who knows? I give up trying to figure out who he's talking to. Because I'll look out the window and there's nothing going on. And he just fussing. But there are a lot of dogs in our neighborhood. So I guess sometimes he hears them barking from their yards and they just be having a conversation. Who knows what's going on in their little doggy heads? But I do kind of hear a faraway dog a little bit. All right, guys. We are finished. Well, with this part. And that's how the patch turned out. So, I'll clean up the back. It's actually pretty neat on the back. Like I said, I got this from Creative Fabrica. And the stitch was really nice. No real issues. It had the automatic stops in there. Um, hardly any jump stitches. I don't notice any jump stitches on the front. And on the back, just a little bit of cleanup. So that tells me this was digitized really well. So that's a good sign. I'm just being extra. This actually looks fine. So this is, ooh, let me get some of that white off. So that is the final. I could take some heat and bond or whatever patch adhesive you want to use. Um, there are a couple of different options for patch adhesive, but you can take that and put it on the back. Hit it with the iron or your little mini heat press and finish your patch and put it on whatever you want to put it on. It's a nice size too, about the size of my hand. So if you want to put it on a jacket or um, it'd be kind of big for a hat maybe, but junk socks, whatever. But I like that little holographic effect that it has with the HTV that we chose. I'm gonna have to come up with another name for it because my mouth does not want to say HTV. It wants to say HGTV. But anyway, this is the finished patch. And thank you for joining me this evening. I'm going to be here every Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And each Sunday, we're going to do a different stitch out and progress in our skill set on the machine. So I hope you will join me. And thanks for joining me this evening. Until next time, bye bye.